Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie. Hello and welcome to The Money Factor. I'm Richard Naylor, your host. Our guests today are David Lurie and Tom Evans. They're mentors with SCORE. SCORE is a dedicated organization. It's a nonprofit. It tries to help educate entrepreneurs and help small businesses do a better job, get out of problems, and get started as well. I want to welcome David and Tom to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've had SCORE on a couple other times a few years ago. There's always an update. Can't put the old show on again. And I think for people who don't really know about SCORE, and that's one of our goals today, is to make sure everybody really knows about SCORE. It'd be great if everybody knew about it.
True.
So what, I don't know who wants to go first, but who wants to tell me what SCORE is?
Well, maybe just to follow up on your comment about the fact that what SCORE is today compared to what it was, we are more technologically advanced today. We have a major website with a lot of features and resources that are available to any clients that we serve. Anytime they want to get on it, they can download information. So that kind of addresses that point you made. But to tell you about SCORE, SCORE is a nonprofit organization that is affiliated with the Small Business Administration. We are technically a separate organization now. Originally, we were a department of SBA. But now we are a separate nonprofit, but we are funded by the Small Business Administration, and we work in conjunction as a partner with the Small Business Administration. So we have changed that role slightly, but we cooperate and work very closely with the Small Business Administration.
Now, were you at all affiliated with the chambers? Because I know you've at least cooperated with them.
I would say we partner with them to provide services and act as a resource for them. So if someone calls the chamber asking, can someone help me with my business question or my startup issue, they would call us in to fulfill that role for them. So more of a resource partner.
Oh, that really enriches the chamber experience. To have that.
Sure it does. It adds to the capability question, and it just gives the better value for everybody in the community to do that. Yes,
so what? Yeah. This is a question that I probably know the answer to because I don't find what SCORE actually stands for. Does it stand for anything?
Not currently.
Okay.
No, not currently. At one time it did, but we try to move away from all that. But just think that SCORE can help people who want to start a business, can help someone in an existing business in terms of any format of business operations. And if you want to sell your business, we can also be a help for you to help you prepare your business for sale.
Now, how does somebody think of using SCORE? In what kind of a context would they think of you?
Well, I think I would start first as someone who wants to start a business would come to us. Perhaps they have an idea, and we would work with them to capitalize on their thought and help them refine their called proof of concept. So if it's an idea that's not pie in the sky, we want them to document through their own research, why is this a valid idea if it's something quite new? For example, if you're starting an operation to pick up dog poop in everybody's backyard, is there a need for that service, and could you make money with that? All right. So we want them to research that. We'll help them with the type of research that would be needed, so that to prove to themselves they can make money doing this, and it's just not a hobby to speak of. Many people come to us with an existing hobby and want to translate that into an ongoing business. And that takes extensive research because usually we need to help them separate the fact from the emotion behind all that. And that's something sometimes I think we specialize in all that, because it's very important for us to take a very neutral position and step back and have the client really research the activities that's behind the idea to document, is this a valid potential operation to make money with it?
So there's a certain amount of sensitivity there involved in that hobbyist who is totally enamored of whatever it is they've been doing.
Indeed. Indeed, and Tom is very good at deciphering the, I guess, the fact from the emotion from a lot of clients. He's a very He's a CPA. You know, CPAs think of very smooth operations all the time. And that's why I think he's very good at deciphering that with all of his clients.
They analyze financial statements and projections?
Well, we work that through with the client. Maybe to pick up on what David was saying, what we want the client to understand that there's more to the business than just putting their item or their idea out without fleshing out all the details that are necessary to become a successful business. And that requires, we kind of promote the idea of having a business plan. And a business plan really is a plan for the business that they want to get into. And they really, they don't recognize it usually when they start. They just hear that somebody said they should have a business plan. But when they get into it, they find out that all it entails is determining all the steps that they're going to need to take and all the factors they're going to have to be concerned with, and being better prepared to start that business. And especially if they need to get financing, they're going to need to prepare a financial portion of that plan, showing what they're going to need to the amount of money they're going to need, or what are the items they're going to need, and how are they going to utilize the steps in that business that will generate money and begin to support the business. So there is a full financial evaluation necessary, but I would also add that there is a full marketing evaluation that's necessary. So every business plan has to have several pieces to it. One is what is the product or idea they have, but secondly, how are they going to operate to make it a business? Thirdly, how are they going to market for the business? And marketing is more, and I'm sure David would support this point, that it's more than just advertising.
That's kind of a limited idea. The 4 Ps in marketing, which sometimes I forget what they are, but they're
place, price, there too.
And how you distribute it, but that's not a P. What does that go under?
Well, there are a number of steps that you need to do to understand what the product is and how it will serve the customers.
Right.
And what is it the customer needs, and what is the product going to fulfill, and how is it going to satisfy that need. And then you look at the competition that you're going to be faced with out there, both the competition directly for the product that we're talking about, but the competition from the environment, other things that may impact their choice of whether they buy your type of product or they use some other solution to the product.
Right. We could do email instead of our phone system, for example.
Exactly. And you need to decipher which is going to be best for you, and then determine if there's a cost involved and how much that cost is going to be. And so this process of studying the business idea that you have and the marketing aspect of it is very important to generate a business plan.
Now, at what point do you encourage people to come to you? We're talking about people getting started, people with kind of naivete, I guess, to begin with, maybe a great idea, but they haven't thought it all through. They don't know whether they should be which type of corporation, an LLC or what. And so, but you look at a broad range of people, don't you?
Very much so. If someone has an idea, it's a good thing to call us first and let us tell them the process that we go through, so to help them stay on focus and stay on track, so they can help do their research and point them in the direction where to do your research very efficiently and cost efficiently and time efficiently, and then give them some homework assignments at each visit. So at first, we like to give them the scope of what we do and how we do it. Most of us follow a model that we ask the client, where are you today? How did you get where you are? Where do you want to go? And I like to ask, why do you want to go there? See if they can articulate the real reasons behind their perhaps moving from a hobby to a business or a need to do a business. And then the next question is, we'll help you get there if you just follow our directions. So it's a very simple model we like to work with. once they understand that, if they're dedicated to do the work that we give them, because we do give them assignments to do and check up on them, then we'll go forward and work with them. Usually meet once a month, once every 5 weeks, more often if needed. Depends on the detail and involvement that the requirement faces by the nature of the business they have, or the business operation that they have to improve sales, hire some people, expand, contract. What the issue is to do that.
It's interesting that you really allow a number of visits. I think a lot of times people may think of maybe the attorney consultation or some other kind of consultation where you get a 30-minute or 45-minute of time,
right.
But the hope is, of course, that now you're going to need the next 20 visits. And you're right up front with no charge, right, for
That's right.
a number of visits.
Even if you come in at 5:30 at night, there's no extra charge. Although sometimes we threaten that it may be twice our rate, but it's really no charge.
Twice
that,
zero,
right?
it's not
Twice the
too
rate
bad.
to after hours work, right? Right. It's an ongoing long-term relationship that we're trying to establish to help them. We want to know everything about the client. In our marketing world, we call it the psychographics. I want to know the hobbies, the interests, how they got where they are today, and what some of their hidden talents are they may have never thought about using to acquire certain skill levels and operations within their business. Could be, for example, the availability of speaking and reading a foreign language may be very beneficial to them in some type of a business operation.
That they hadn't thought about.
It's right in front of them, but the old story is you miss the things that are right in front of you all the time. So we like to get to know the people in depth we possibly can.
Now, I think a lot of people think of getting help when they're just starting out, and they really are stuck. Maybe they go to a bank, and the bank says, "Where's your business plan?" And they're like, "What's a business plan?" That would be an extreme case, but it certainly, as
that's
Tom
typical.
said,
That's very typical.
the bank sends them back. Now, as they move along, though, do you see many people who are working and maybe there's some real questions? They're not sure. Maybe I should be charging more or less, or something like that. Maybe I should redo my business. Maybe I shouldn't be a sole proprietor. Do you get those kind of questions?
Yes, we do. And it's very tempting for them to think, well, I'm just starting out in business and I'm going to put a low price on what I just try to sell it. But we usually advise them that's not a good idea. You really need to study the market and see what the market value for that item is and what other people are charging. And if you're as good or better, don't try to undercut just for the sake of selling it, because you will be considered a low price or a lesser value item. So consider the price that's currently in the market, and maybe even charge a little bit more because you have advantages that you are promoting. Because one of the worst situations we discover in talking to clients is they'll get into business just to generate business and discover either 6 months or a year down the road that they've worked like heck and they haven't got anything to show for it. And it's because, number one, they may not be charging enough. Number two, they may not have looked at the expenses that they're incurring and determine what I've got to do with my business. Maybe I have to ramp it up and spread my market larger in order to have enough to cover my expenses. So there are a lot of valuations that should be investigated right from the beginning.
And if I was a business that was having a problem, do you feel comfortable taking that on?
Oh, very much so.
I've been in business for 20 years. We've been
Sure.
selling diamonds, and I don't know what's going on here, but I seem to be having a lot more bills myself than I am taking in money.
Right. So we look at strategy and let's go back to the original strategy you started with and where you're today. What are the competitive forces that have made you come to us? What's happened in your marketplace? What kind of creative ideas have you been thinking of or not been thinking of? We don't go by what many people call the book of knowledge, because you can acquire that by going downstairs in your library and getting a book. We want to go beyond that book and let's think of creative ideas that perhaps you haven't thought of, or maybe some other people haven't thought of, that you could apply in your business today That's what we're really very, very good at. And thinking out of the box, out of the sequence, out of the classroom. Most of our counselors are very, very good at thinking like that, to offer some ideas that would be just completely foreign to the original thought that maybe why you came to SCORE.
Let's go into the background a little bit of your counselors. I think we've established that anybody in business, if you have a business-related question, they can call SCORE for advice, and you're not going to laugh at them or say that's
Well, not to their face anyway, right?
Not to their face anyway. And but there's a lot of other aspects to this that you're also willing to talk about.
Very much so. I think we'll talk about anything to anybody. At least I take all the phone calls and emails and questions coming in, so I call what I call a triage, and I do a filtering process. Some cases that we're very good, it's a good match for us. Other cases it may not be a good match for us. So I'll make a suggestion where the caller can go for some additional advice to help them with all that.
Okay, so you're not necessarily going to attack every problem. Some problem could be beyond your help. Maybe there's a special
some
tax
legal
issue.
issues. We don't try to pretend to offer legal advice, but what we do is try to get them to recognize that they've got a legal issue to be resolved and they should seek legal help for it. And we know some of the attorneys who do business law in the area, and we will give them a list that they can refer to. But we identify what their problem is and try to get them to seek legal counsel for it. So part of, and follow what you said before, part of our focus, our particular advantage is that all the people that are members, and we have 35 members in our chapter at the present time, have experienced been in business or worked in businesses where they had real actual experience in business. And so when we say that it isn't all in the book, they need to know what the book says, but they need to understand what real life experiences are, and we try to coach them in that direction.
Now, you probably all have somewhat different skills, so each of the 35 people.
Yes.
Do you sometimes communicate, or do you have someone see another counselor? How would you handle that?
Well, we set up scheduled sessions, and we always have at least 2 counselors for the session. And the first session is usually an evaluation by a team of counselors. And then when we recognize there's a particular need, say a technical need or a marketing need, a financial need, and we will contact one of our other counselors to have them sit on the next session or a future session so that the client gets the particular professional help they need.
That's great. Now, one of the things you said before, you would refer them to someone, say it could be a tax attorney. To what extent do you have to say, okay, I can't be responsible I can't tell you what to do? It's like a librarian who gets a legal question. I'm not an attorney, I'm a librarian, so I can't say, well, this makes more sense than that. I can give you a book, but you can go a little further than that. You can probe. Right. How do you distinguish between these two situations?
Let's say first, we never tell anybody what to do. They have to make their own decisions.
Right.
We're very clear. They have to make decisions. We help them put a format down to say pluses and minuses, and let them talk their way through it. Do that a lot on the charts, and they'll see right away. Well, the answer is pretty obvious now when you look through it, right? But in many cases, we have to suggest they go see another professional because legal advice is something we're not licensed. I don't have a lawyer.
You're not either.
I'm not
right.
licensed to get one. So, another issue we get a lot on the telephone are labor relations issues and labor law. I tell them, you're asking me a question I'm not authorized, I'm not knowledgeable about, but here's where you go to find the answer to do that, to set through for. So many cases that I would take care of right on the telephone of that nature, give them an issue where they can go to help get the right kind of service for it, set through for it.
And sometimes I suppose it just comes down to insurance. The attorney has liability insurance. Right. For a specific problem. A doctor has liability insurance, psychologist does, but when you get out of your field, you really don't have protection for somebody saying, well, you told me to do that.
Well, we do have insurance. We are covered by insurance. We have every counselor has to sign a code of ethics form, and we are then covered by the SCORE's insurance, liability insurance coverage, so that if something was said in a consultation that turned out to be a problem for the client,
or they took it a certain way.
If they took it a certain way, or they decided to file some sort of action against us, we would have that protection.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. I'm stepping back a few minutes ago, we were talking about particular specializations.
Right.
In my case, it's finance and accounting, where in David's case, it's marketing and whatever else you want to add to that. But it's primarily marketing, I think he would agree.
Well, marketing is everything, right?
Well, no, it isn't quite.
All marketers think like that. Marketing is number one.
It all depends.
But they need help also. I think marketing to me is really needs to be close to the strategy of an organization.
Sure it is.
But without
From
somebody
from
saying,
A to Z.
right?
I mean,
but
from
without
the time
somebody
the concept of what the item is to the publicity and how you carry it out, and to sales.
right.
They're all part of that whole spectrum of marketing.
Now, what makes a counselor want to be a counselor?
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you should ask that, because this morning I was counseling with a retiree from General Electric, and he was saying, you know, there are a lot of people who've either retired from General Electric or in the downsizing, they don't have a job at the present time. They would be good candidates for SCORE. He is a GE retiree, but he said, there's always that desire to do something that you're familiar with in the past, but do it on a volunteer basis and not have to go to work to do it. And it's the kind of work that a GE retiree would like to do.
And it makes so much sense. One of the things that young people bring, I think, to business and to an organization is new ideas and energy.
Yep.
But after 20 years, you've learned something, and to lose so much company history and so much just expertise when a company loses that is really difficult sometimes to replace. So it's great that that these skills aren't lost.
Counseling is a two-way street as well. I think all of our counselors can learn something from the clients that are coming through. And so it's a two-way exchange. And if you walk away not thinking about different issues after a counseling session that maybe you didn't think of before, that's the key to the whole thing, is to think about something different for the client, as the client may present a different problem that you anticipated. So
you really have to be listening and open.
Oh, very much so.
We want to emphasize the fact that we counsel both startup people who have an idea to start in business and become an entrepreneur, but we also help people companies already in business. We consider ourselves more focused on small businesses, and within that small business, up to 500 employees, there are businesses who have difficulties during their life cycle.
And I think some of these things where we talked about in the presidential debates where they talk about what is a small business, when you get up to some of these numbers, it feels probably a little different than most of the people that you're going to talk to, and that most of the people in our society are dealing with a little bit more of an isolation than 500 employees.
They have two, usually it's 2 employees, 1 employee, less than 5.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We also work with a lot of not-for-profit organizations in the community that come to us, because they're really small businesses. They may not think of themselves as that, but we try to convince them to think of that. You have budgets, you have payroll, you have people, you have marketing, and so on. They want you to think like a small business. What is your strategy? What are you trying to deliver? How you evaluate what you do? How do you bring new people to the organization? Just like a small business, training people and hiring and firing and so on. So we are one of the few groups that will work with a not-for-profit organization in the community. And we have quite a few of them in the system right now that we're working with.
I'm really glad you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a few examples of things that you feel were successful? Not pointing out a company, of course, but...
Sure. One thing we're aware of is that in the past, since the economic crisis of 2008, there have been a lot of people who've lost their jobs, or in the downsizing or the cutbacks, and a lot of those people had very good skills that they utilize in their business, and they have come to conclusion that they could try to go out on their own and provide a consulting service or develop a niche business of their own. And so we're getting a lot of those people who now are thinking, I can make it in a small business world, and I don't on my own. Women especially, whether it's some style of clothing that they think of, or any number of boutique type ideas, or it's a coffee shop or cupcakes or baking. There are an amazing number of ideas that people come and say, gee, I'd like to start my own business doing this. And of course it's a whole new idea to them, but they gain by sitting down with us and talking about it.
I would not at all surprised. Anything else you can think of where you've had a success with employees?
I think a lot of people in the baking industry, whether it be a wedding cake or a specialized candy or cookie operation, who have the talent to do that, but how do they take that talent and make money with it is the issue, and we try to help them as much as we possibly can. And we've had some very good success with that before. It's a very niche market, but knowing how to penetrate that and make sure you're charged enough for it so you cover all your costs to make enough money, you can do that, sure.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've come across some people that were in contracting businesses, construction businesses, where let's say an electrician, for example, and they worked for a company or they worked for the union, and they just felt that, I think I could do better on my own. Somebody this morning came and they were a beautician. And they said, I've been working for the owner of this beautician parlor for so long, and half of everything I get goes to them, and I get what's left, and I'd like to do it for myself. And so they think, what do I need to do? They really come and say, what do I need to do? But once they have that idea, and we say, have you got the passion to work through the business aspects of it? And if they do, we're happy to help them.
And do these people generally understand the sunk costs and the startup costs and the other things that 50% that they feel they're not getting? Or do you find that often they're thinking, oh, after you talk to them, I hadn't thought about those costs?
That's true.
They have a dream, and they see where they are today and the end of the dream. It's the things in the middle they forget about. Mm-hmm. Say, well, how do I do that, and how much is that going to cost me, and how do we prepare for that? So we take them through all those steps one by one to make sure they're aware of that.
And what we try to get them to do is to get some paper and identify the things that they're going to need to start, the expenses they're going to need to be in business. I have some rent, some insurance, some utilities, may have assistance, labor costs, the variety of costs. But once you itemize them on paper, and you then begin to plot what it will cost you by month, and then begin to estimate what you will take in, what you can take in, through the revenue that you generate, then you begin to see how the picture develops. And it usually gives them second thought about what they need to do to be able to make a sustainable.
Because some of that revenue might need to go into growing a business, whereas possibly some businesses are fairly mature and the staff is old and people are thinking of retiring. But if you want to grow it,
got to plow it back in again.
Got to plow it back in again.
That's right.
The challenging ones are the online business entities for startup costs, because most people don't have any idea what the cost structure is to put together a good online product capability to go out there and market that. It's all in marketing. We do online work. And most of them feel, well, I've got a great little product I made here, but how do I get it out?
Just put up a website,
just put it out and see what happens, right?
Right.
Well, it doesn't work that way, as you know. So they usually underestimate those type of costs, and they realize it's a real skill behind that to market that online, to be successful with it.
Do you find, after talking to people, why maybe more people haven't called you? Because to me, you're a gold mine of help with a lot of experience and good intention, and yet some people, it's a little hard to ask for help. Have you figured out why people don't clamor for help more often?
It's an awareness situation.
Is it?
people don't know about SCORE, or it wasn't until a friend of them told them, well, they were at the barber shop, whatever, and they found out about it. They just didn't know about it. So it's an awareness situation. And our national association has known about that for many years. So they're working deliberately and very, very hard to do that. There's a very large ramp up on PR with the national. A lot of the national publications, you'll find SCORE mentioned to do it. And a cross section from a popular TV show down to an article on the Wall Street Journal startup pages. So SCORE is mentioned a lot, but there are 315 million people out there, and it's a matter of a number game to do.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It's an awareness situation, right? Not a fear, it's a number situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how can, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's good to know that there are 360 chapters across the country, and we're free. And so once they realize that they can talk about their business idea for free, and at least get some input that might be helpful to them, then they begin to say, gee, I'll do that. I can venture to try that, you know, without any consequence. So I think we aren't known well enough that we could be known more.
Now, I just want to touch on one other thing that I forgot, and then we need to talk about how people can find you. You mentioned the word ethics. You know, you have insurance, and you have code of ethics. Do people ever worry that they're giving away some brilliant idea to you? And that,
Yes.
Yeah.
They do, especially if they've created something they think is totally unique, and they feel that they have to have a patent on it, and they'll be afraid to let it out of the bag if they even talk to us and we say, you know, you can decide for yourself, but we want you to be aware that we sign a code of ethics that everything that we discuss is confidential. We don't even talk about it at home. I mean, the details. I may say,
Right.
I've had a lady who wants to open a bakery, but I won't discuss any of the details about who she is or where she is or what are the specifics of what she's trying to do. But, and we take that serious, and so it has worked well for us. We don't very rarely get somebody to complain that that information, or they weren't happy with the way they were treated.
So let's get to that part. How do people find you? We want to make it easy.
Well, you could call us by telephone. That's 446-1118, extension 233. Our webpage, another way you could find it, if you just look for SCORE Albany, New York, you could look for Northeast New York SCORE. To do it, you just go to score.org, our national website, and just plug in your local zip code, and you'll find us very easily as well.
I noticed if I just type SCORE in Google, you're the top hit.
Well, that's because the National Association is working very hard to create that awareness issue and make that uniform throughout the country. Right, that's an example of it.
That's why we've kept that name, even though people say, what does that mean?
Right.
Well, I can tell you that when we got started, it was because we were the Service Corps of Retired Executives. But to this day, we have people who are also in business. So we're no longer just a retirees organization. We're volunteers, but we accept applications from people that are also in business and are anxious to help out other people in business.
That's great. Is there something we didn't cover that you wish we had?
Well, we mentioned we work with people who want to start a business, people who are in business, people who want to sell a business, people who want to buy a business, we'll work with them. Local not-for-profit organizations, we work with them. Also work with authors. We've helped some people take the idea of their book and market that book locally. We've done some of that type of work as well. So if you're an author and you have a book, or you have an idea for a book, you want to know, how do I do this? Now, you know, I can write it, which is the, you know, the mechanical part. How do I sell the book and get my message out? We'll help people do that as well for it, through it. So
And we have public workshops periodically throughout the year. Sometimes it's in conjunction with some other group. Like we participated in the town of Colonies. I guess they call it this entrepreneur startup
Yes,
program.
we did a program on that.
Yes. and we participated in that. So we can become a panelist, or we can participate by being there with a booth and talk to the people who are there. So we get out in the public as much as we can. We sometimes will have a workshop in our office on a particular topic where we publicize it and then invite people to come. Sometimes if there's a fee attached to it, we find that if there isn't some little fee, they don't feel committed, and so they say they'll come and then they don't come. But it's not meant to burden them, it's meant to commit them to coming to the workshop.
And it's not onerous, I assume.
Pardon?
And it's not a high amount.
It's not
more
onerous, and in fact, we think it's pretty generous.
pretty inexpensive, right?
Yes.
Well, David and Tom, I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
Want to wish you luck, and it's great that we have a SCORE office right in Colonie, right in Albany area, for the Northeast even.
That's right.
So
We're happy to be here, and we're glad that you were invited to join you today and talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show, that you call SCORE if you find that you might be able to use their services, and that you have a great week. Take care. Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.